The royal city of Varelia was no longer shining. Its crystal towers were broken, its marble streets were cracked, and smoke rose into the sky like dark fingers trying to claw the heavens. Once, music and laughter filled the air here. Now the only sound was the distant boom of explosions and the sharp cry of warning sirens, deep below the ruined palace. In an underground shelter lit by weak blue lamps, Princess Lyra sat on a cold bench. Her long teal-blue dress was torn at the edges, her silver crown slightly tilted on her head. She held her hands together in her lap, trying to hide the trembling in her fingers. She told herself to stay calm. She was Shalaron royalty, daughter of the High Queen, heir to the throne. But her people's empire was falling apart. The enemy had already reached the palace gates. 2 guards stood near the heavy steel door. They wore the shining armor of the royal guard, but their shoulders sagged with exhaustion. One of them kept glancing nervously at the ceiling as if he could hear the battle above. Lyra closed her eyes and tried to remember the safe days of her childhood, the smell of the ocean breeze, the bright halls of the palace, her mother's voice. But the memories only made her chest ache. She forced herself to take slow breaths. Calm. You must stay calm. A deep rumble shook the floor. Dust fell from the stone ceiling. The lamps flickered. The guards froze, their hands on their weapons. Then a loud metallic bang. Another. The sheltered door groaned under the impact. Lyra's eyes widened. Is that them? She whispered. Before the guards could answer, the door burst inward with a deafening crash. The 2 guards jumped forward. But the figure that stepped through was not one of the enemy. It was a human. Lyra had seen pictures of humans before, but never in person. The stories about them in Shalaran culture were intimidating. They were said to be strong, aggressive, and unpredictable. Some tales even called them predators from the blue world. This one was tall and broad-shouldered. His dark combat armor scratched and burnt from battle. A rifle was slung across his back, and his helmet visor glowed faintly red before it slid open, revealing a pair of sharp green eyes and a face covered with a light layer of dirt and blood. He looked around quickly, scanning the shelter, then his gaze locked on Lyra. "You're the princess?" he asked, his voice deep and firm. Lyra hesitated. "I am Princess Lyra of House Shalaran. Who are you?" "Captain Aaron Vale." "Human Alliance," he said shortly. "I'm here to get you out before the enemy does." The guards stepped forward. "She will not go anywhere with Aaron didn't even look at them. If we stay here another 5 minutes, you'll all be dead. Your choice." Lyra stared at him. "How did you even—" The ceiling above them shook violently, and a deep explosion echoed through the ground. Dust rained down like sand. Aaron stepped closer, his boots heavy on the stone floor. He extended his hand toward her. "We move now, princess, or you don't live to see tomorrow." His tone was cold, but his eyes were steady, focused on her, waiting for her answer. Her heart pounded. She didn't trust him. Her people said humans cared only for themselves. But what choice did she have? The sounds of battle above were getting louder. The enemy was coming. She took his hand. The moment she stood, Aaron pulled her toward the door. "Stay close to me. Don't stop for anything." The guards followed, but Aaron shook his head. "They'll slow us down. The best chance is you and you." "Me, moving fast," one guard protested. "She's our princess." "We will." Another explosion ripped through the palace above. The sound was so loud it made Lyra's ears ring. The floor cracked in one corner, and part of the ceiling collapsed. The guards looked at each other, then nodded grimly to Lyra. "Go, Highness. Live." Dora felt a twist of guilt in her chest, but Aaron didn't give her time to speak. It pulled her into the dark corridor beyond the broken shelter door. The palace was almost unrecognizable. Hallways that once gleamed with polished stone were now blackened with scorch marks. Broken pillars lay across the floor.
Ow.
In the distance, strange alien machinery clattered. The enemies wore drones, searching for survivors. Aaron moved quickly, his head turning left and right, rifle ready. Lyra hurried after him, her steps quick but quiet. She noticed how he stayed between her and any possible danger, his broad frame blocking the open hallways. They reached a wide staircase. Half of it had collapsed. Aaron stopped, scanning the area. We can't use the main halls. Too exposed. I'll take the service tunnels. Lyra frowned. You know the palace layout? I studied it on the way here, he said, starting down a narrow side passage. Your people aren't the only ones with maps. The service tunnel was dark and smelled of smoke and burned metal. The walls were close enough that their shoulders brushed against them as they moved. Lyra's breathing grew quicker. She wasn't used to such cramped spaces, Aaron must have noticed, because he spoke without looking back. Keep breathing steady. In through your nose, out through your mouth. I am calm, she said, though her voice was a little tight. Good, stay. That way. They reached a door at the tunnel's end. Aaron opened it slowly, peeking through the gap. Outside was a side courtyard, half covered in rubble. The night sky was red with fire. The distant roar of engines echoed overhead. Aaron stepped out first, scanning for movement. Then he gestured for her to follow. Halfway across the courtyard, a sudden mechanical hum filled the air. A spotlight beam shot down from above, landing right on them. Run, Aaron barked. Lyra didn't argue. She ran, her dress snagging on broken stone. Behind them, the air exploded as a drone fired plasma shots, each blast lighting the courtyard. With blue fire, Aaron spun, firing his rifle in short, controlled bursts. 2 shots hit the drone's sensors, and it spun wildly before crashing into the ground. He turned back to her. You okay? She nodded, breathless. Yes, I think. Good. Keep moving. They reached the far wall and slipped into another building. Inside, it was quiet except for the distant thump of artillery. Aaron found a shadowed corner and motioned for her to sit. You're not hurt? He asked. No. She studied him for a moment. You risked yourself for me back there? Why? He gave a short shrug. Because you're my mission. That's all. That's enough. She looked away, unsure how to feel. Her peoples. Stories had painted humans as selfish. Yet here was one who shielded her with his own body. Outside, a new sound rose, the crunch of boots on rubble, getting closer. Multiple sets. Aaron's eyes narrowed. We've got company. Lyra's. Pulse quickened. The enemy, I'm not sure. He reloaded his rifle, his movements calm but fast. Stay low. And no matter what happens, don't panic. She pressed her back against the wall, her heart racing. She had promised herself she would stay calm. But as the footsteps grew louder, she wasn't sure she could keep that promise. The shadows at the doorway moved. Figures began to step inside. Aaron raised his rifle. Looks like this just got interesting, he muttered. The shadows in the doorway grew darker as the figures stepped inside. Aaron held his rifle steady, his body slightly in front of Lyra. His green eyes scanned the intruders, 4 of them. Tall and thin, their armor painted in the gray and black patterns of Varelian invaders. Each carried a sleek plasma weapon, and their insect-like helmets glowed faint red. One of them hissed in a strange alien language. The sound made Lyra's skin crawl. Aaron's voice was low, but sharp. Stay behind me, princess. The soldiers fanned out. The leader aimed his weapon at Aaron. Surrender the Shalaran Royal, the alien said in rough standard. Do this, human, and you may leave alive. Aaron didn't blink. Not happening. The alien tilted his head, as if amused. You protect what is not yours. Foolish. Before Aaron could answer, one of the soldiers raised his weapon toward Lyra. Her breath caught in her throat. Aaron moved faster than she thought possible. In one smooth motion, he fired 2 quick bursts. The soldier's weapon sparked and fell apart. Its barrel melted. The alien staggered back, hissing in pain. The room exploded into chaos. Plasma shots lit the shadows in bright flashes. Aaron ducked and rolled behind a pillar, pulling Lyra down with him. He returned fire, each shot precise and controlled. One alien went down. Another tried to flank from the side. Aaron caught. the movement and kicked a broken table into its legs, sending it sprawling. Lyra pressed her back against the pillar, her hands gripping the edge of her torn dress. She felt useless, just sitting there. But her mother had always told her, in moments of fear, to find a way to act. When one alien stepped closer to their cover, Lyra grabbed a loose chunk of stone from the floor and hurled it. It hit the alien's helmet with a sharp crack. The soldier staggered, and Aaron finished him with a clean shot. "Nice throw," Aaron said quickly, then grabbed her arm. "We're moving." They slipped out through a side exit, leaving the fallen enemies behind. The cold night air hit Lyra's face. As they entered another ruined street, fires burned in the distance, throwing orange light against the broken walls. Were those the same ones attacking the palace? She asked between breaths. "No," Aaron said, scanning rooftops. "Different unit. It's probably a scout team looking for stragglers. The main force is still pushing toward the center." Lyra tried to match his pace. Her legs ached, but she refused to complain. "How far until we're safe?" Aaron didn't answer right away. "Safe is a long way from here." They turned into a narrow alley. Debris blocked most of the path, but Aaron moved quickly, lifting or shoving aside whatever was in their way. At one point, he pushed a heavy metal beam aside with a grunt, creating just enough space for her to squeeze through. She noticed the faint limp in his step now. "You're hurt," she said. "Not bad," he replied. "It's just a graze from earlier." Lyra frowned. "You were shot?" Glanced back at her. "Don't worry about me. Worry about what's ahead." They emerged from the alley into a small plaza. The fountain in the center was shattered, its water pooling dark on the ground. The buildings around them were empty shells, windows blown out. Aaron crouched beside a wall, peering around the corner. He gestured for Lyra to stay low. Enemy patrol. 2 drones, 3 soldiers. She leaned slightly to look and quickly wished she hadn't. The enemy soldiers were massive compared to her, their armor gleaming black in the firelight. The drones hovered above them, their sensor eyes sweeping the streets. Aaron's voice was quiet. "We wait for them to pass." The patrol moved slowly, scanning for movement. One of the drones buzzed closer to their position. Lyra's heart pounded so hard she thought it would give them away. Aaron placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Breathe," she tried. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Just like he said earlier, the patrol finally moved on, disappearing into another street. "Come on," Aaron whispered. They moved quickly, keeping to the shadows. Lyra noticed how Aaron always kept her on the side away from danger, a habit that felt both protective and strangely personal. They reached a collapsed marketplace. Stalls were overturned, goods scattered and burned. Lyra stepped over a broken jar and noticed a small, singed toy on the ground, a carved animal, one she remembered from her childhood. Her throat tightened. Aaron saw her pause. "Keep moving. Memories can wait. Survival can't." She nodded, pushing the sadness away. The next obstacle came without warning. A low hum rose in the air, followed by a blinding beam of light. A drone had spotted them from above. "Down," Aaron yelled. They dove behind an overturned cart as plasma fire scorched the ground nearby. Aaron popped up, firing at the drone. But it darted away, circling like a predator. "It's calling in reinforcements," Aaron said grimly. "We have less than a minute before company arrives." He scanned the street quickly. There. He pointed to a half-collapsed building. "We'll cut through." Inside, the building smelled of dust and smoke. The floor creaked under their boots. They moved fast, weaving through broken furniture and shattered glass. Outside, the sound of enemy boots grew louder. "Through the window," Aaron ordered, pointing to an opening on the far side. Lyra hesitated. The drop looked far. But Aaron didn't give her time to argue. He slung his rifle, climbed through, and dropped down. "First, I'll catch you." She climbed to the window edge, her heart in her throat. Then she let go. Aaron caught her easily, setting her down before turning to scan the street again. "We're clear, for now." They continued toward the edge of the city. The streets became narrower, the buildings more damaged. At one point, They had to crawl through a gap in a collapsed wall. Lyra's dress tore again, but she ignored it. Finally, they reached what looked like an old transport station. The roof was half gone, and the platforms were covered in rubble. But it was quiet, almost too quiet. Aaron led her to a sheltered corner behind a fallen beam. "We'll rest here for a few minutes." Lyra sat, her legs grateful for the break. Aaron checked his rifle, replaced the power cell, then glanced at her. "You're holding up better than I expected." She gave him a faint smile. "Were you expecting me to cry? Most would have. You haven't." "Crying won't help my people." Aaron studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough." The silence stretched between them. Outside, the fires still burned, but the gunfire was distant for now. Lyra finally spoke. "Why are you helping us? The Shalaran and the Human Alliance aren't allies." Aaron leaned back against the wall. "Not officially, but sometimes. Politics doesn't matter. Saving someone who needs saving, that matters." His words surprised her. She had thought of humans as practical, always thinking of what they could gain, but his tone was different. Before she could respond, Aaron's wrist beeped softly. He tapped it, and a faint voice crackled through. "Vale, extraction point changed. You need to move north to Sector 6. Shuttle can only wait 15 minutes. Aaron cursed under his breath. "We've got a long way to go, Princess." "And a short time to do it," Lyra stood. "Then we should start." They had just stepped onto the street again when the sound of footsteps came from behind. Aaron turned and froze. It wasn't enemy soldiers. It was a group of armed Shalaran. For a moment, relief flickered in Lyra's chest. Our people, but then she saw their faces. These were not royal guards. Their armor was mismatched, their insignias painted over, and their eyes cold, calculating. One of them smirked. Well, the princess herself. Aaron shifted his stance, rifle raised slightly. "Friends of yours?" Lyra's voice was tight. "No, rebels." Leader of the rebels stepped forward. "You're worth a lot, Princess. Alive. And this human. We don't need him." Aaron's finger tightened on the trigger. "You're not getting her," the rebel laughed. "You think you can stop us, human?" Aaron's green eyes hardened. "Try me." The air between them grew heavy, the tension sharp enough to cut. Lyra could feel her heart racing again. This wasn't the enemy she had expected, but it was danger all the same. The street was silent, except for the faint crackle of fires burning nearby. Aaron stood with his rifle half-raised, his body angled in front of Lyra. Across from them, 5 Shalaran rebels blocked the way, their mismatched armor and cold eyes told Aaron they were dangerous and desperate. The rebel leader grinned, showing sharp teeth. "Step aside, human. This doesn't concern you." Aaron didn't move. "It does now." Lyra's voice was firm, though her heart pounded. "You are betraying our people." The leader shrugged. "We are surviving. The queen can't protect us. But you, princess, you're valuable. With you, we can bargain with the invaders." Aaron's jaw tightened. "You sell your own to the enemy?" The leader's grin widened. "Survival has no rules." One of the rebels took a step forward, weapon pointed at Aaron's chest. "Last chance. Walk away." Aaron's mind worked quickly. He was outnumbered, but not outsmarted. His eyes flicked to the alley on his left, narrow, dark, full of debris. Perfect for breaking line of sight. But first he had to distract them. "All right," Aaron said slowly, lowering his rifle. "You win." Lyra's eyes widened. "What are you?" Aaron gave her the faintest look. A silent "trust me." He stepped forward, hands slightly raised. The rebels relaxed just a little. The leader smirked in victory. That's when Aaron moved. In one swift motion, he tossed a small metal sphere from his belt. It clattered to the ground between them, emitting a sharp hiss. A cloud of thick smoke erupted, filling the street. "Move." Aaron grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her toward the alley. The rebels shouted in confusion, firing wildly through the smoke. Plasma bolts sizzled past them, scorching walls and stone. Aaron led her through the narrow alley, his boots pounding. The ground, "Stay close." They zigzagged through piles of rubble, the shouts of the rebels growing fainter behind them. After several turns, they ducked into a ruined storage building. Aaron crouched low, listening. No footsteps, no voices. For now, they were clear. Lyra leaned against the wall, breathing hard. You tricked them. Aaron gave a quick grin. They weren't very bright. They stayed hidden for a few minutes, letting the danger pass. Aaron checked his wrist. The clock was ticking toward the extraction deadline. We need to keep moving north, he said. The landing zone isn't getting any closer. Lyra nodded, still catching her breath. How do you always know where to go? Aaron shrugged. Experience. And I've been in worse places than this. Lyra tilted her head. Worse. He didn't answer directly. Let's go. The next streets were quieter, but the city's destruction was everywhere. Buildings leaned like broken teeth. The air smelled of smoke and scorched metal. Somewhere far away, a siren wailed. They moved. Quickly, but not recklessly. Aaron kept scanning rooftops and corners. Lyra noticed how his eyes were always moving, how he adjusted his pace depending on the terrain. He wasn't just a soldier, he was a survivor. At one point, they passed a collapsed bridge. Beneath it, Lyra saw a small figure, a Shalaran child, hiding in the shadows, clutching a worn blanket. Her heart clenched. We can't just leave him, she whispered. Aaron followed her gaze. His expression hardened. If we stop, the rebels or worse will find us. Lyra hesitated. The child's eyes met hers, wide and scared. Sighed, muttering something under his breath, then approached the child slowly. Hey, kid, you alone? The boy nodded. His voice was barely a whisper. They took my parents. Aaron crouched down. We're headed somewhere safe. You want to come? The boy looked at Lyra. She gave a gentle nod. You'll be safe with us. With the child now between them, they moved again. It slowed their pace, but Aaron didn't complain. He adjusted his route, choosing narrower streets to avoid open exposure. The boy stayed quiet. Lyra noticed he kept glancing at Aaron, not in fear, but in cautious trust. It was the same feeling she was beginning to have. They reached a section of the city where the fighting had been fierce. Craters pitted the ground and entire blocks were reduced to rubble. Aaron led them along the edge, avoiding unstable debris. Suddenly, a faint mechanical hum reached their ears. Aaron froze. Down. They crouched behind a half-collapsed wall as a patrol of enemy mechs marched past. The machines were tall, insect-like, their metal legs clicking against the stone. Each carried heavy weaponry, scanning the ruins for movement. Aaron's eyes followed their path. We'll wait until they're out of range. The boy fidgeted, nearly kicking a loose rock. Aaron gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Easy. Almost done. When the last mech disappeared, Aaron gave the signal to move. Not long after, they reached a wide avenue. The extraction point was still several blocks away, but the avenue was open and exposed. Aaron crouched, studying the street. This is a kill zone. Snipers could be anywhere. Lyra looked at the wreckage around them. Is there another way? Not unless you want to add 20 minutes to our trip. We don't have 20 minutes, he thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. We'll make our own cover. They moved along the edge, ducking behind burned-out vehicles and rubble piles. Aaron tossed small sensor decoys ahead of them, tricking any automated targeting systems into firing at the wrong spots. Halfway across, a sniper shot rang out, hitting the ground just inches from Lyra's foot. She froze. Aaron grabbed her arm. Don't stop. Keep moving. Another shot, this one hit a decoy. Aaron returned fire toward the distant flash of the sniper's scope. The firing stopped. When they reached the far side, Lyra let out a shaky breath. You make it sound so simple. Aaron smirked. Simple doesn't mean easy. They entered a district of old warehouses. The buildings were tall, but mostly intact. Aaron slowed, his instincts telling him something was off. Then he saw it. A flicker of movement in the shadows above. Shoved Lyra aside just as a plasma bolt scorched the ground where she'd been standing. Rebels. The same group from before. They poured out from side alleys and rooftops, weapons ready. The leader grinned down at them from a balcony. "You run fast, human, but not fast enough." Aaron's eyes darted to a nearby warehouse door, half open, big enough to get inside. He whispered to Lyra, "When I say run, you take the boy, and head for that door. Don't stop until you're in." She nodded, gripping the boy's hand tightly. The rebels closed in, their weapons aimed. The leader raised his arm, and Aaron shouted, "Run!" Back! Lyra sprinted, pulling the boy with her. Plasma fire lit the street. Aaron fired back, covering them. The warehouse door loomed ahead. Lyra shoved it open and pushed the boy inside. Aaron followed a second later, slamming the door shut behind them. Inside, the warehouse was dark and dusty. Rows of crates stretched into the shadows. Aaron pulled them behind a stack just as the rebels started banging on the door. "They'll get in soon," Lyra whispered. Aaron looked around. "Then we won't be here when they do." He found an old maintenance hatch at the back of the warehouse. It led to a narrow underground passage. They slipped inside, the sound of the rebels breaking in echoing behind them. The passage was cramped and damp, but it led them several streets away. When they emerged, the air was cooler, the noise of the rebels gone. Aaron checked his wristcom. "We've got 5 minutes to make the shuttle." They hurried through the last few blocks. The extraction point was just ahead, a wide plaza with an open patch in the center, and that's when Lyra saw it. A massive shadow moving at the far end of the plaza. Her breath caught. "What is that?" Aaron's face was grim. "Trouble." Towering enemy war machine stepped into view, its eyes glowing red, its weapons locking onto them. The huge war machine stood like a mountain in the center of the plaza. Its metal legs moved slowly but powerfully, crushing debris beneath them. Its glowing red eyes scanned the area, locking onto Aaron and Lyra. "Run," Aaron shouted, pulling Lyra by the arm. They darted behind a burned-out vehicle as the machine fired a blast of energy. The ground shook, and shards of concrete exploded into the air. The heat singed their faces. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She had never seen anything so terrifying. She stumbled, but Aaron caught her before she fell. "We have to get past it," Aaron said, his voice low but urgent. "No shuttle waits forever." Lyra nodded, trying to steady her breath. But how? Aaron's eyes searched the plaza for anything they could use. Then he spotted it, a pile of broken machinery near a half-collapsed building. "Help me move that," he said. Together they pushed the heavy metal parts into a pile. It wasn't much, but it would be enough to create a distraction. Aaron glanced at his wristcom. The shuttle was arriving soon, but they needed to cross the open plaza first. "Stay close," he warned. The war machine turned, its weapons aimed directly at them. It fired again, and this time the energy blast slammed into their pile of scrap metal, sending sparks and smoke into the air. "That's our chance," Aaron yelled. He sprinted across the open ground, Lyra close behind. Plasma fire zipped past them, blasting the ground where they had just been. Halfway across, Lyra saw a dark figure moving on the far side, a sniper, aiming right at Aaron. "Watch out," she screamed. Aaron dove behind a fallen pillar just as a plasma bolt struck the spot where he had been running. Lyra's mind raced. She looked down at her hand and saw the small device Aaron had given her earlier. A control chip for alien technology. She remembered the strange panel they had passed in the ruined palace. One she had touched but did not understand at the time, maybe, she thought. She pressed the control chip and held it tightly. Suddenly, the war machine stopped firing. Its eyes flickered, and its metal legs slowed. Lyra gasped. The device was interfering with the machine's controls. Aaron looked up, amazed. "You did that?" She nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. Taking advantage of the pause, Aaron fired his rifle at the sniper's position. The sniper ducked, missing his next shot. "Keep moving," Aaron urged. Together they sprinted across the rest of the plaza, dodging fire and broken debris. The shuttle was waiting just beyond the plaza, its engines glowing softly as they neared. The war machine roared back to life and charged after them. Lyra's legs ached, but she didn't stop. Aaron grabbed her hand, pulling her faster. Just as the war machine raised its massive arm to strike, Lyra remembered the device again. She pushed the button hard. The war machine froze, its arm hanging in the air. The shuttle's doors opened. They ran inside and collapsed onto the floor. Aaron looked at Lyra with respect. "You saved us." Lyra smiled, breathing heavily. "I'm not just a princess. I can fight too." The shuttle lifted off, leaving the burning city behind. The shuttle's engines thrummed softly as it rose above the ruined city of Varelia. Inside, the cabin was cramped and dimly lit. Lyra sat on a metal bench, her hands still trembling slightly from the battle. Aaron sat beside her, checking his. Rifled one last time, though the weapon showed no signs of damage. They were safe for now, but both knew the war was far from over. Lyra turned to Aaron, her voice quiet but clear. "Thank you. You've saved my life." Aaron shrugged, a small smile, tugging at his lips. "I was just doing my job." She shook her head. "No. You risked everything to protect me. That means more than duty." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Aaron looked at her with something softer in his eyes. "You're stronger than I thought," he said. "Not just because you fought that war machine. Because you stayed calm. Even when everything was falling apart." Lyra looked away, unsure what to say. "I tried. It wasn't easy." Aaron's voice lowered. "But you did it. That's what matters." Suddenly, the shuttle jolted. Alarms blared. "Hostile ship approaching," the pilot announced. "They're on our tail." Aaron and Lyra exchanged a glance. The war wasn't done with them yet. Aaron stood, rifle in hand. "Get ready." The shuttle shook as enemy fire slammed against its hull. Sparks flew from the control panels. Lyra gripped the bench tightly, heart pounding. The pilot pushed the shuttle into evasive maneuvers. Outside the small windows, flashes of light and explosions lit the darkness of space. Aaron moved to the rear hatch, opening it with a hiss. "I'm going out there. We can't just run." Lyra's eyes widened. "You'll be alone." Aaron smiled grimly. "Not really." He reached out and took her hand. "You helped me back there. Now I need your help." Her heart jumped. "Me? What can I do?" "Stay calm and follow my lead." They floated out of the shuttle into the void, tethered by safety lines. The cold of space pressed against their suits, but neither spoke of fear ahead. The enemy ship loomed, a sleek, dark vessel, bristling with weapons. Aaron's voice crackled over the comm. "We'll board it, disable their systems, and get out before they know what hit them." Lyra nodded, determination shining in her eyes. Inside the enemy ship, chaos awaited. Alarms blared and red lights flashed. Aaron and Lyra moved quickly, working together, covered her as she hacked into alien consoles, using the same device she had used to stop the war machine. She was fast. Fingers flying over the controls despite the tension. Aaron fought off guards with a mix of brute force and precise shots. Every time one fell, he glanced back to ensure Lyra was safe. At the core of the ship, Lyra accessed the main control panel. The enemy tried to stop her, but she held firm. "Almost there," she whispered suddenly. A heavy hand grabbed her shoulder. She spun and kicked the attacker, and ducked behind a console. Aaron was there in an instant, firing 2 shots that knocked the enemy down. Lyra caught her breath. "Thank you," Aaron nodded. "We finished this." Together, they shut down the ship's weapons and engines. The enemy ship drifted powerless in space. They raced back to their shuttle as alarms screamed. Once inside, pilot took off, shaking off the enemy's lifeless vessel back in the cabin. Lyra looked at Aaron with new respect. "You saved more than my life," she said softly. "You saved hope for me, for my people." Aaron smiled. "Maybe humans in Shalaran can be more than enemies." Lyra reached out, taking his hand. "Maybe," she whispered, "we can be allies."